Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WM32 Football podcast. Today, we are going to be having a bit of a chat with somebody. Now, in our previous fan-based interviews that we've done, we have looked at teams in the Premier League, such as Tottenham, Arsenal, Everton. We've had somebody who has supported a team by and large through League One. But today we are going to go completely the other end of that particular spectrum and the English football pyramid, and go proper non-league. So I've been joined today by Kieran, who is a Leighton Town fan. Kieran, how long have you been supporting Leighton Town?
Well, I used to go when I was probably about 5 or 6 when my uncle used to play for him, but properly supporting them now for the last sort of couple of years, 2.5 years, sort of around that sort of time now. And obviously it's thrown up some good and some bad memories, but it's been a kind of a crazy couple of years, to be fair.
Yeah, interesting. And also, I think what is going to be interesting for a lot of people is the fact that you are a Leighton Town fan and not a fan of, say, a Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, as much as it pains me to say those two clubs, Tottenham, or one of the bigger clubs within England. So, what was it then that attracted you to Leighton Town, or was it, as you mentioned there, just for the fact that your uncle played for them?
No, it had nothing to do with my uncle having played for them in the past. It was a couple of years ago. The club got to the FA Vase quarter final and they had a home game. I was 15, nearly 16 at the time, and we, as a group of mates, all went down to Bell Close to watch it. We lost 1-0, but then we kind of really enjoyed it, got a bit of a taste for it. We'd been going as a group of mates again to watch MK Dons for, I'd been going for years and years and years to the Dons, but as a group of mates, we'd been going a lot that season. It was the same season that we went down from League One to League Two when we had, Dan Machici and all that rubbish. So from there, it kind of like we got maybe a little bit disillusioned with Football League and stuff. And so going down to non-league where it was kind of like we were the main, vocal contributors behind the goal and, making noise and what have you. I mean, it was really refreshing and something completely different that I don't think any of the lads, and particularly myself, had ever experienced. And I just, probably more than anyone that went with us, got just this unbelievable, I don't know, passion for the town. And we saw out the rest of that season, and as a group, and it didn't quite go to the plan that the club had wanted to. I think we finished fourth in the end. We created some good memories. We did a couple of away games in London. Went to Cockfosters. We went to Wembley, both on the train, which was some really good day out. Cockfosters sticks with me for so many brilliant reasons. Turning up 10 minutes late and missing the first 2 goals, it was ridiculous. But I think that then after that, it was just kind of more involved with the club, and since then really it's just taken off, and I've never really looked back, to be honest. I've been probably to the Dons 2, 3, 4 times top since then, and whenever we're not playing at Town, I don't and the Dons are playing, I tend not to bother going anymore because I've just fallen out of love with Football League and fallen in love with non-league.
No, it's interesting again, like I say, that you have almost fallen out of love, as you said there, with the game at a sort of higher level. Obviously, not the top end, but still at a decent level within the football pyramid. And actually, you've just found a love for non-league football. And you mentioned earlier then that you went to your first game around 5 or 6. Do you have any particular memories of that and what it was like?
I don't really. I mean, when I was sort of 5 and 6, I was never really into football that much. It sort of came for a couple of years later when I was sort of 7 or 8. So particular memories from then, I don't really remember much. But if we're talking on a general properly supporting level, it started 2 and a bit years ago. So obviously not that much, but in a short space of time, there's been so many games. And at non-league, the beauty of non-league, I think, is that anything can happen in any different game. Everything changes. It's entertaining. Always keeps you on your toes. I mean, this season, you've got players getting sent off, from both sides, high scoring games, keepers getting injured and outfield players going goal. It happens all the time because that is the beauty of non-league. Anything can happen. And that's one of the reasons why I find it so entertaining, because it's different every single game. You're never going to get, the same game. Chances of getting a boring 0-0 are, I can't remember how many 0-0s we had. There's probably none. I don't think we had a 0-0 this season.
No, that's brilliant, and I think as you mentioned there, and the fact that goal outfield players ending up in goal. Obviously, we don't particularly see that towards the higher end of the football pyramid, and I think if we do, it is quite rare. But it seems at non-league football that is, it seems to be a bit of a norm. And you mentioned earlier that you went to an FA Vars game with your mates. Are those mates you still go with now? Are those the people that you go to games with, or is it a bit of a family affair? Do you go with your dad or whatnot? Talk to me about who you go to games with.
Well, it's, to be fair, over the last, like I say, last couple of years, it has changed who I've gone to games with quite a bit. To be fair, the first, at the end of the 2017-18 season, the end of that season there, from sort of February to end of April, we had loads and loads of games, playing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and it was a big group of us, probably about 20, 25, went to pretty much every game. And then come the new season, that really faded. A lot of people, a lot of us had just turned 16 and moving on to college in sixth form. So a lot of the lads were playing football again. Some of them were starting to work. I was starting to work as well, but I working in a job, so I always made sure I could still go to the football. But a lot of the boys couldn't make it for some reasons, and a lot of people just, after a 3-month break, couldn't really be bothered to get back into it. But then for the big games, people would come out, big cup games. I'd rally, and a couple of other lads that have consistently gone. We'd rally the troops and get people down and stuff. But then this season, it's always been me and my friend James JT. We've always gone together. Away games as well with a couple of the club directors, Sean and Steve. We went to a lot of away games together last season, and home games was me and JT, and other people would come and go. It would kind of be last season, especially the 18-19 season, it would be me, JT, and then a couple other people here and there who came along for the game. They'd never be sort of week in, week out like we would be. And then this season, it's kind of grown to a bit more of us. So there's me, JT, my mate Harry, my mate Davidge, our mate Owen, who comes quite a lot, and then there's other people who come in and out, but people have been coming more and more regularly, and you've seen attendances go up a little bit as well. And then we've had quite a few big games this season that have brought out so many young lads and people in general. And my mum has really got into it as well. She loves her football regardless. Same with all my family, but all my family have come down a lot recently, and my dad goes a lot now. And he does join me with the games, but it's been more me and my mates have kind of built something there as a core group of lads who go, and then other people have kind of just tagged along and joined it in the process, as well as managing to get my family into it as well, even though most of the time I wouldn't even go to the games with my family anyway.
Yeah, no. Well, it sounds like you're the man then, Kieran. If we need to get anyone to boost some attendances, it sounds like you're the guy to go to.
I do try.
Brilliant. No, I think it's great that you have your friend there, as you mentioned, JT, and then a couple of other people might tag along. And I love how you've managed to rope your family in to come in along as well. It's brilliant, because obviously at that level the club almost needs people coming through to try and survive in some way, in some capacity. And you mentioned there about when you do go to games, a couple have been on the train and everything else like that. And, the people that you've been with, do you have any kind of ritual or superstitions that you would adhere to come a match day? Is it a lucky shirt, lucky pants, socks? Is it a bite to eat in the pub before the game? What are your match day like rituals and superstitions?
Well, so to be honest, I'm not the most superstitious person, but I do have if we're at home, I especially on a Saturday, I like to walk down to the club. So it's about 25-30 minute walk from my house to the club. I like to walk down, and I always have to go to Morrison's and get a deli box, some chicken some cross-cut chips, and go into the club. Get there nice and early, about 1:30, 2:45. Sit down, watch the rest of the lunchtime game. Maybe have a can of Coke or a pint, and then that's normal. That's my home superstition. Now at away games, especially if we've got a big away game, it's spoons early doors, and then we go from there. Really, that's just the way it is for the big away games. But now coming into next season, I'm sure every away game will be in spoons much earlier. But Tuesday night away games, normally my friend Harry will drive, so if that counts as a ritual, then we're in the back of Harry's car. We might have a couple of cans, and we'll head down to the football.
No, it's brilliant. I love how it differs depending on the severity of the game.
If it's not a big away game, then we'll knock spoons on the head. But if there's a big away game, then we're probably in there for about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So it just depends on, like you say, the severity of the game.
Yeah, no, and obviously spoons seems to be a bit of a hub and a pillar for any kind of away day at some point. As well, so maybe who knows, next season you might be, like as you mentioned there, in spoons a bit more regular and a bit more frequent, depending of course. So you mentioned there about some of the games that you've been to. What would you say then, in the time that you've been a Leighton Town fan, has been the best game that you've been to?
See, this I find such a difficult question, because I don't want to. It's always because we've had so many, good games where we've got different memories for so many different reasons. So, for example, even when we first started going, there was a game we lost 1-0 at home on a Tuesday night against a team who were bottom of the league, had barely won all season. But it's this really brilliant memory I've got, because we had lads turn up from football training late in football kit, and there was about 30 of us behind a goal, non-stop noise. We came up with loads of our chants that we still got today then on that night as well. And it was such a really nice evening. I don't know, there was something about that game that really sticks with me and resonates with me, and that has always. But best game, this season, I mean, we've had some unbelievable games. Tring away in the league this season, we won 2-1. Danny Webb scored a absolutely unbelievable free kick that went viral, 500 odd K views in total now. Absolutely amazing that was, and to win, they were top of the league at the time, and we had such a poor start to the season. Ainsbury, Eastbourne at home would have been after that, 2 weeks after that, in the Vars, 2-1 win, 1-0 up. They equalised in the 87th minute, and then we scored in the 93rd. We had there was 426 down there on the day, and there was probably about 70, 80 lads of us behind the goals. Oh, that was unbelievable. What a game that was. That's up there. That's definitely up there. And then Ainsbury in January. I mean, despite some controversy that came with it, I take that completely away from that these days, because I just can't. It was to me. It was all too much. Overhyped. There was not that much in it anyway. But it was unbelievable. Oh my god, 3-1 down, 15 minutes to go, 4-3 win. Even just talking about it gives me goosebumps, raises the hairs on the back of the neck. Unbelievable. I've watched the goals back so many times from that game. I think that's probably. I can't really say it's anything else, because that was just that feeling of when we scored the winner in the 90th minute after being 3-1 down. It just does not get better than that. So I'd probably have to say Ainsbury away in January this year in the Vars, because that was just unbelievable. And even in top end football, you just don't see that every day. It was absolutely mental. There were so many of us there. It was definitely Ainsbury away, 100%.
But no, I think every football fan can relate to bagging a last minute winner, and the scenes in any crowd that would take place when that happens. I think any football fan, no matter, regardless of the club that you support, I think every football fan, like I say, can relate and resonate with that. But no, it seems like a good mix there of some games that have caught your memory and have stayed with you over the last couple of years and whatnot. But I'm going to take you back to a game or a moment where you've gone, oh my life, what a awful game or awful performance that was. So what is the worst game that you've been to?
See, there's probably different reasons for worst games, because some of the worst games are just games that are boring. We lost 1-0, 2-1s. we've had at the start of this season, our first 8 league games, we got a point and lost 7. And we had pretty much the same team that we had for the rest of the season when we went on like a 5-month unbeaten run, and it is a brilliant team, and for some reason it just wasn't working. And I think then there was Harefield away, and we lost 3-1. We had a goalkeeper at the time who was just, quite frankly, shocking, and he'd cost us like 2 or 3 goals. And I remember going in. I was doing the kit in the dressing room afterwards, and I remember saying that it was effing embarrassing, and I wasn't happy, and I lost my head a bit because it felt like we had we deserved something out of the game in the first half, and then we just fell away, and it was an embarrassing performance because we're favourites here to do something in this league, and we just weren't turning up. And this was off the back of a 4-0 loss away at Newport Pagnell, which definitely is up there with one of my worst days supporting the town. I think that Harefield game's probably up there. I wouldn't say going out of the Vars in the quarterfinal this year, because I had such high hopes of us getting to Wembley this season. I said it from the beginning. We had so many good games. We got through. We got to Corinthian away in Kent in March, and we lost 4-3. 90th minute we conceded. We'd been 3-2 up. It felt like Ainsbury had come back to bite us on the arse, because 3-2 up, 3-1 up, Ainsbury, whatever. And we lost 4-3 and we went out. But that to me wasn't that bad of a memory, because we've been on such a great run and it had just come to an end. It hurt that we were out, and it was upsetting, but it wasn't a worse memory. So I'd probably go Harefield away maybe at the start of this season. Biggleswade United away on a Tuesday night, because we played so well, and we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. We lost 2-1. It's probably the games where it's really cold and rainy and horrible and we lose and I'm just miserable, and then I just typical football fan style, ruins me weekend, and I can't be bothered to talk to anyone else for the rest of the weekend because I'm so upset about the football.
Yeah, no, I think I think every football fan can relate to being a bit annoyed and frustrated when your team loses, and it can sort of ruin your mood and ruin your weekend. So yeah, I think again every football fan can go when your team loses, like, oh brilliant, here we go, weekend's ruined, and you do end up definitely in a bit of a mood. And like you say, especially when it's cold and it's wet as well, I think those ones are the worst, especially where you've sat through 90 minutes or whatnot, and your team hasn't particularly turned up in the way that you'd hoped, and to add on top of that, you lose as well. Who would you say then, Kieran, in your time supporting Leighton, would be your favourite player of all time, and give us a reason as to why you picked that player?
Well, there's a few players that would spring to mind, and sorry, pardon me. When we first went, there was a player called Bruno Brito, and I'm sure if any of the boys that we went, that I went with, and we went with as a group, are listening, they remember Bruno. Fond memories. He was always on the bench, and he always used to come on. There was this one game. It was the second game we went to. It was actually the first game after the Vars game we went to. So it was people didn't think that the young lads behind the goal were going to come again, and we all turned up again. And we drew 3-3. We went down to 10 men, and he come off the bench and he scored twice. 95th minute equaliser, and it's absolutely brilliant. And he scored once more whilst we were following town, and we won 4-0 on a Tuesday night, and it was brilliant. And he's always been kind of a cult hero to us. And he left at the end of that season. The manager left, and he left, and he's been playing at Aylesbury ever since. And whenever he comes down, I always say hello to him and have a little chat with him. So he's up there just in terms of like cult hero status. But for me, best all-time favourite player in the last couple of years. I'd put people like Alfie Osborne up there, because I get on really well with Alfie off the pitch, and we chat quite a bit, and he's a top boy. Danny Webb just this season, unbelievable, like 40 odd goals. What a player. And every time you get the ball, I always think he's going to score. So he's definitely up there for me. I'd go Dave Murphy, because he's just such a top bloke. And he's given me lifts to away games here and there, and he's just such an absolute legend. One of the nicest blokes you'll ever meet. top quality centre back. Takes no nonsense on the pitch. He's just, I think he's a brilliant player, and he's just such a great guy as well. That he's probably all time, because he's been there for the last couple of years as well. Been there ever since I've been following the Town. So yeah, definitely put Murphs there as my all-time favourite Town player.
Perfect. No, that's brilliant answer. So we're going to go from all-time favourite player to the one in the current squad, who you would say is your current favourite player, and give us a reason as to why, again, that you've picked that particular player.
Well, Murphson is still in the current squad, but at the moment, because he's kind of my all-time Town favourite. He's not necessarily current favourite, or whatever. And like I say, I speak to all the boys at the games and stuff like that, and they're a top group of lads. They really are. I'd say my current favourite player has to be Webby, just because he's just unbelievable. Like I said, like 40 odd goals this season. At the start of the season, he could have had like 3 or 4 every game, and if he'd scored then, if the season had carried on, he'd be at 60 odd goals. He's just different class. He's so quick. Like I said a second ago, every time he gets on the ball, you always think that something's going to happen. We're going to score. He's going to get an assist. He is just absolute dynamite. I think any team in our league, maybe even the league above, would be lucky to have him. And he's definitely worshipped by the supporters. Everyone loves him, just because of the goals he brings. And he's a quiet lad off the pitch, but he's just on the pitch. Different class, absolute player and a half.
So what is it then, perhaps for you, in your opinion, then, that has made Danny Webb not quite progress in terms of playing at a higher level? Because I think if anybody's seeing a player scoring 40 odd goals in any season, people are going to be questioning, well, why? What is it about him then that he can't make that step up?
Well, I think playing at non-league is, there's other factors in it, especially at our level. It's not necessarily about why isn't he not making the step up. For some players, it's about money. Is a player getting offered more money at step 5 than he is maybe playing at step 4 or step 3? And that can be the case these days. But for Webby, he's starting a new job and things like that. And he was just he's a local boy, and so I think that for him, it's not necessarily that because he could easily play at step 4 easily, and I'd back him to play higher. But for him, I don't know. It's not, he has his own reasons, but he could easily play there. But off the pitch, especially in non-league, it's not necessarily just about he's a good player, he can play higher. But does that player want to go and play higher? Is he happy playing at step 5, playing with teammates that he gets on with? At this level, sometimes you're playing with your mates. Does he actually want to go and make that step up? And especially the travelling commitments are a lot more as well. Does he have the time with work and things like that? So, especially at our level of non-league and it being part-time, factors. The other factors are probably the main reason why a player won't go and play at a higher level.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly understandable. I think like you say, with it being that level and obviously being part-time, players do have other jobs and have to juggle other bits and pieces and whatnot. But it was just interesting to get your input on that. And again, Kieran, then what? I'm sure you've had many memorable moments being a Leighton Town fan. But if you could pick just the one, just that one that stands out probably more than any of them, what would it be?
Memorable moments, I'd probably say getting my hands on the Leighton Town Twitter account as a fan, because being able to have a platform, the official club's Twitter account, as a platform to try and raise attendances and the profile of the club, whilst also being a fan, it has its downsides, and being difficult to maybe manage the two and not getting your emotions too caught up in it, which I've done in the past, and I'm happy to admit that. But he also gives it that feel that this is a supporter, giving his viewpoint on things. So I think that for me, on a personal note, is massive, because it's the main football club in the town, and I've got the responsibility to report on what's going on at the games, and also to try and get people through the gate. And attendances have steadily gone up. The followers on the town's Twitter account have gone up rapidly, which is something I'm very proud of. So as a memorable moment as a Leighton Town supporter, it's for me getting more involved in the club and doing my bit as a volunteer, because I don't get paid, as all volunteers do at non-league. So it's, for me, that's a very proud moment and very memorable, the fact that I managed to do something like that and have the responsibility to try and build something which I'm still trying to do to this day, and will continue to do so for hopefully for many years to come. So that's definitely the most memorable moment of my Leighton Town journey.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And obviously from yourself, it's credit to you for volunteering your time and whatnot to to put what you can into a football club and whatnot. And you're going here, there, you're following the club here, there, and everywhere, and whatnot as well. Giving up your time and everything else like that. You've mentioned your Tuesday nights as well and everything else. So no, big credit to you for that.
Thank you.
No, not a problem at all. We're going to go then from most memorable to lowest point so far supporting Leighton Town.
I think a lowest point. I'd probably say the thing is maybe the start of the 18-19 season under Danny Nichols, because we just weren't performing. Everything had changed. Our squad had changed drastically. We weren't performing at all. So I'd say maybe that's up there. There was Live Town away in the FA Vars in Birmingham back in December 2018. Gone up there. And I'll be honest, I had a stinking hangover. I was not happy. And we'd gone up there on a coach, and I was tired and groggy, and we'd drawn 0-0. It went to extra time, and a man sent off, and we ended up losing 4-0. And I think that was a long old day. So I'd say that's definitely up there in terms of a worst or a lowest moment, I should say. But then this season, going out of the Vars, I know it was in the quarterfinal stage, and like I said earlier, it was a brilliant journey and a brilliant run with some amazing memories and people met along the way. But in terms of a lowest moment, for us to concede that 90th minute goal, for me, the feeling in the bottom of my stomach, it was horrible. I felt like I was going to be sick, because I was so upset in a way, because I thought that this was our chance. It was a winnable game, and the fact we were in front, that would have to be the lowest moment for me, just in terms of what ifs and what could have been. That was. It was for a football fan, for any football fan, in terms of FA Cup or League Cup, Champions League, whatever. If you're in a winning position or a chance to go through, and you've got a team that is beatable, and you're winning, and then you go and lose, it's always going to hurt. So I'd say that for me has got to be the lowest moment, just in terms of the occasion, and like I said, what if and what could have been.
Yeah, no, and I think as well, you mentioned there, like every football fan that can relate to a what if time, or probably a few games or whatnot, and even signing players. You see clubs getting linked with players all the time, and you just think, well, what if we signed him? Like he could take us to that next level and whatnot. And then, like I say, certainly from game perspective, you just think, well, what if we'd have picked up a point here, or managed to turn a defeat into a draw? What sort of impact that would that have had on the team and on the squad? And speaking of impacts and teams on squads, managers are usually the ones to have that. Who would you say the best manager is then has been in your lifetime supporting Leighton?
Well, since I've been following Leighton, we've had 3 managers at the moment. It's a joint manager partnership. So Scott Reynolds, who obviously took the club to an FA Vars quarter final, and and then we had a not the greatest end of the season, but whenever we spoke to him, he was always very fond of us coming down. But he, having spoken to people at the club from now on and things like that, you can tell that he wasn't the right man for the job. Danny Nichols came in, and I can hand on heart say that he was a very personable, great guy, absolutely top bloke. Didn't get to speak to as much as I would like to. I'd only just started getting involved in the club then. But he was a really, really nice guy. And I really, really liked him. But we just couldn't win games. He's the kind of manager that a couple levels higher, where he's got contacts. That's where he would be as a manager. And if we were playing on a much better pitch, because his style of football and what he wanted to play was really, really good. And he was a very nice bloke. I liked him a lot. And then now, we've got Joe Sweeney and Paul Copson who've been there for, coming on to 18 months. And, Joe's kind of the face of it, and Coppo and him, work together behind the scenes all the time. And Joe is a top man. I've got so much time and respect for him. And, for me, he's definitely the favourite out of a lot of them. They came in last season. They've dropped the age average of the squad from about 27 point something to 23.6 or something like that. They've got a nice, hungry, young squad of players. They've given us memories. Last season, they came in. We were near the bottom. They steadied the ship. We finished mid-table. And then this season, we built on something, unbeaten in the league for 5 months. I know we had a poor start to the season, but other than that, it's been really, really good. Plain sailing, really. We've had a great run in the FA Vars. We had a nice trip up to Lowestoft in the FA Cup this season. We made some good bits of prize money. And Joe's very big on helping off the scenes and giving me a hand and helping me out when I need things. And we're always in conversation together. Just the other week we were on FaceTime to each other doing a little Q&A for the Twitter account and stuff. So for me, in terms of as a package, as a manager, on the pitch and producing some amazing results and some good moments and some comical moments and things like that. And off the pitch as a collective, Joe and Coppo, 100% for me, the two that have just been brilliant for me personally, and for helping us kind of build the club back up to what it should be and where we deserve to be and where we're trying to get.
No, brilliant. From best then to the worst, who springs to mind when we speak about worst managers, and what was it kind of about them that didn't quite fit or wasn't quite right, or the football might not have been great? Talk to me about that.
I think that for that one, it pains me to say it. Scott Reynolds, we weren't following it enough, but from what I've seen and heard, and the football was okay, but they got to a Vars quarter final. So for me, he wouldn't be in the worst, but it'd have to be Danny Nichols in terms of we were trying to play football in terms of trying to play like knocking it about, keeping the ball on the deck, playing passing football. But at Leighton Town and at Bell Close, people that are listening and have been to Bell Close will know that the pitch is not great, and it never has been amazing. We do good work on it, and Bruce tries his hardest, but it's never been the best pitch in the world. It never will be unless we do some serious work and we get a grant or whatever to do some serious work on it. So in that terms, I think Danny Nichols, because we had a very poor start to the season. We were trying to play football that we couldn't play with the players that we had, and it just didn't work. And unfortunately, his time had to come to an end, and it did. And Joe and Coppo came in, and then, like I say, they steadied the ship. So I'd have to say Danny Nichols, but not in the terms of off the pitch, because he was a top bloke, and I think that if we were a couple of levels higher, he'd be perfect for the job, because he's got the contacts at the higher levels, and players at step 5, he just doesn't quite know enough people at the level, to bring in the right set of players.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Obviously, sometimes you hope for a manager to really, really work, and for one reason or another, it doesn't quite go as everybody wanted to. And I think, unfortunately, that's just probably life and sport, especially team sports in general, really.
Yeah, definitely.
If you could name a favourite ground apart from Leighton's, what would it be that you've been to?
See, for me, the beauty of non-league football is that there are so many grounds with so much, brilliant little bits of character, and lovely little grounds that we'll go to. You get the grounds that are picturesque, with beautiful backdrops, and the sun's shining. You go there in late summertime, and it's beautiful. Even going up to Aston Clinton, we went there for a pre-season friendly last summer, and they play in pretty much a park, but it was an absolutely beautiful evening. About 22, 23 degrees, sun was shining. The backdrop was over RF Morton, I think it's called, which was really, really nice. And that would be up there just in terms of just how much of a nice evening it was, and how much it sticks with me. But nice grounds, I really like. To be fair, I know Ainsbury, and people that are listening, know that I'm not fond of Ainsbury, but their ground is nice. Their stand behind the goal is absolutely brilliant. But for me, that my favourite ground has got to be Arsley Towns, because they ground share with Baldock, who are also in our league. It's Arsley's ground, and they've played at a high level, and the ground's really nice, and they've got this lovely little terrace bit behind the goal that's quite high up, and the tea bar there is really nice, and got a nice big clubhouse, a couple of really big stands on the side. So I'd say for me, that's probably my favourite ground that I've visited with Leighton, because we go there quite a bit. We went there in the summer last year. It's always been a nice trip up there, and I've always enjoyed it. And it's a ground in our league that when the fixtures come out, I really look forward to going there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I think you mentioned there as well that there are other things that might come into play with some of the grounds, with some of the clubs playing at the level that you're at.
Definitely.
In terms of the picturesque nature of them. And you mentioned the T-bar as well. I don't think fans of clubs higher up the football pyramid will be like, T-bar, what's he on about? But no, it's quite interesting. Which ground then is the least that you've been to? Again, excluding Leighton. And you just think, oh my God, what a dive of a place this is. I can't wait to get out and go home.
Yeah, genuinely those words that you said, a dive in a place that can't wait to get out of it, describes some clubs in our league like to a T, because there's just the thing of step 5 is you've got some clubs that have played at a higher level, you've got some clubs who have been at a level for a while, and you've got some clubs who have come up. So the grounds, the quality of ground really differs and varies all the time, because you've got clubs who are kind of would never want to go up and get promoted because one, they haven't got the room, they haven't got the money to do the ground improvements. So for me, in terms of places that we go and I can't wait to get out of, North Greenford. If JT's listening, he knows about this one. We went there on a Tuesday. I've been there twice now. We went there on a Tuesday night and we lost 1-0. And it's right in like deepest, darkest North London. It's a ball ache to get to, especially on a Tuesday night. And it's just not a nice ground. I don't know. It's just small and it's dark, and it's not a nice, not the nicest place in the world, and definitely not one that I look forward to going to. Oxyjets as well, also a bit of a dive. The club hasn't had any proper work for years. It's just not a nice ground. I'd say they're probably the main two that I really don't look like going to in terms of grounds. And I think there's some clubs, and London Colney as well, but I do quite like London Colney as a away game. But in terms of quality of ground, it's not great. But North Greenford, they're actually a very, very friendly club, and I actually really like the people there. It's just in terms of the ground, it's not the nicest in the world, and especially going there on a Tuesday night losing 1-0, that'll certainly sway your opinion on it a little bit. But yeah, they're definitely the two in the fixture list I look for and think, is there any way I can get out or go into this today potentially? But then I'll always go, but it's the one like, it'd be a nightmare if this was to get cancelled or postponed or something.
Yeah, no, it sounds like especially at that level, who can do it on a cold Tuesday night away at North Greenwich or North, one of those. Just final one for me then, Kieran, in terms of questions. What are your hopes then for next season with Leighton Town?
I think for me this season, because we've been in the Vars, we've been so fortunate to get to the quarterfinals again. I think for me this next season, I would love personally. We need to win something. We haven't won something for ages. Bit of silverware, a couple of League Cups or something. And I'd love a run in the Vars. I'd love to get to Wembley. But for me, promotion next season has got to be the priority. We've got to go up. We're a step 4 club in the making. We're a big town, Leighton Buzzard, and the people that have stuck by us and supporters that we've got, the great set of supporters that we've got. Me and my mates included in that. We want to see the club at a higher level. We want to have a new set of teams come in. We want to go up to a high level with some better away days, things like that. But for the club in general, it's massive that we get up the pyramid a little bit, because for a town the size of ours, for the highest ranked football club in the town, the senior football club in the town, they shouldn't be playing at step 5. So we need to get promoted next season, 100%. That's my hope and dream, and I'm sure that's the club's as well. And I know for a fact that it is, that we want to be at step 4. So promotion. I'd love another Vars run, because they are really special. You get to go to grounds normally not in your league and stuff, so that would be really special as well. and a little FA Cup run at the start of the season wouldn't go amiss. But obviously, they're all hopes and dreams, and I'm sure that not all of those will come true. But from this season, if we can keep the squad that we had together, maybe a couple of extra additions, I can't see. There's no reason why we can't go far in the Vars, maybe have a go in the FA Cup and get promoted. Why not? The point of being a football fan is we can dream and we can have these kind of hopes and ambitions, and hopefully, at least one or maybe two of them will end up coming true.
Yeah, 100%. And I think every fan as well loves a cup run, especially. So the fact that you get,
100%.
I think the fact you get the FA Cup and the FA Vars, you almost get kind of two stabs at it, if you like. But Kieran, we are done for today, my man. Just leaves me to say a massive thank you to yourself, guys. Do not forget that this is on Spotify, so give us a follow on there, WM32Football. And on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel WM32Football as well. Kieran, thank you once again for providing us an insight into life as a non-league fan, a little bit further down the football pyramid. So, no, thank you ever so much for that.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much for having me on, Wes. Really appreciate it, and keep up all the great work you're doing yourself, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you for that.